I don't know many people who don't enjoy a good RPG, just getting lost in those massive worlds, and much of my love for them has to go to Japan. Some of the weird and quirky characters they come up with always leave me smiling but scratching my head in equal measure. Let's have a look at 10 of the most interesting RPGs coming up. They're not all obviously going to be Japanese, but I think the Switch is really becoming a great home for this style of game in general, and there are a great deal to come. If you guys like this list, then I've got another 10 games already lined up that are coming this year that are also RPGs. I'm Mark Walker, welcome to SwitchUp. Do leave a comment down below. Remember, we give away a free game on our sales video every single week, so if you want to go check that out, you just need to leave a comment really. We just choose someone at random. Last week we gave away a copy of Moving Out from Team 17. Let's get on with the video. The first RPG then is Xenoblade Chronicles, which comes out at the end of this month, the 29th of May. Now believe it or not, it was first released back in June of 2010, so it's a decade old. If you're unfamiliar with it, this time around you play as Shulk and his friends, and the story is a revenge plot, focusing on the Mechon. The series did something which I personally hadn't seen in any other game, other than maybe Discworld, but I might be the only one that played that. And it places the entirety of the action on the backs of giant guardian creatures. It's such a cool idea, based as it is on a side series from creator Tetsuya Takahashi. They use real-time action-based combat where you'll be controlling the character yourself and performing different arts, which are the attacks, but there's an auto-attack element here as well. In some ways it was pretty standard, but as you'll know with the series, there's a good amount of depth to most of the elements. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with the remastered version on Switch, if we can see increased texture resolution. As you'll know, Xenoblade 2 on Switch was quite blurry when it launched, so hopefully this time around they've really put the time in needed to make it look nice and crispy when it launches at the end of the month. For me, one of the most interesting upcoming RPGs on the Switch has to be Baldo. It has such heavy Studio Ghibli inspirations. The artwork looks lovely, but there's also a touch of Ni no Kuni here as well. What we know so far is that this is an open world RPG that describes itself as having loads of side quests to do, tons of NPCs, there's trading in there, a bit of puzzling, but I think for me and maybe others as well, it's these visuals that are really enticing me, as well as the promise of some detailed puzzle-filled dungeons. To be honest, I need my dungeon fix. It's nice to see a Western dev team paying homage to classics, but also doing their own thing. There's no release date on this one just yet, but from the build we most recently saw, it's looking quite far ahead in development. But obviously with everything going on, who knows when it'll drop. Now next up we've got a game that's actually already out in Japan. It's Yokai Watch 4, which released in December, but we've yet to see it make the transition over to the Western market. They're based around the now famous Yokai Watch, which is something that allows the characters to see and summon these creatures that are known as the yokai, and then in turn form bonds with them. This time around it's set over 3 unique locations, but interestingly they're also different times. There's a fully 3D overworld environment, as well as an entirely revamped battle system. But unlike most RPGs, this time around you'll have a human player and then 3 of these yokai will come along for the ride and imbue the party with their own skill set. I guess the only issue we've really got here is whether or not it actually arrives in the Western market, because I believe this was one of the worst selling in the series to date and was then slammed when Super Mario Maker came out shortly after it. A mate of mine owned the first Bravely Default back on the 3DS and swore by it, but it was a title that I never got around to play. But a game that I have played a bit of is Octopath Traveler, and knowing that it's the same team to produce this is filling me with quite a bit of confidence. It is obviously a brand new world, a brand new story, and there is a demo of this one to play as well, and by all accounts it's looking great already. It's quite funny, I was reading a little article from Famitsu in which they interviewed the producer over at Square Enix, Tomoya Asano, and he actually apologised for Bravely Second End Layer and described this title as being the apology for that game, saying that this time he was going to return to his roots and wanted to create a brand new world and new characters so that even those new to the series will be able to enjoy it 100%.
And don't stand on ceremony either.
If I've helped even one person, then I've done the right thing.
Interestingly, you can actually pre-order Cris Tales already on the Nintendo Switch on Amazon at only £29.99 physically, which is decent. Comes out on July the 31st, and it describes itself as a love letter to classic JRPGs that has the slightly interesting twist that you can look back into the past and then go and do things in the present and watch as your choices dynamically change the future. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And that all plays out on one screen split. That's very cool. The visuals are beautiful, there's no two ways about it. This is lovely. And while not the longest at around 20 hours, this is one I'm very excited about. For some reason, anything to do with time travel in films and games, it just piques my interest. I'm always thinking about things like the butterfly effect, and with the benefit of hindsight, it's so easy to look back and think, you know, what I could have done differently. So any kind of medium that tries to engage with that idea is going to appeal to me for sure. As I say, it drops at the end of July, and just to be kind, they've given the Switch version a £5 premium over the PS4 and Xbox. Annoying. There's a certain type of RPG that only Obsidian can do this way, and The Outer Worlds, while it didn't live up to everyone's expectations, ticks all the boxes for me really. There's a cast of slightly strange characters, a quirkiness that only this developer seems to understand, and a completely new and quite untapped avenue for setting a game. As always, you can change your character fully, from the gender, the face, skin tone, hairstyle, eye colour, and the usual array of dodgy makeup, scars, etc. that you can change. Unlike the VAT system of Fallout, here you have tactical time dilation, which basically, well, it's bullet time, isn't it? It slows down time and gives you a few ways of doing more damage. Fun fact, you can kill every NPC in the game. As I say, I don't think it fully hit its potential, but if it's the beginning of a series, then you can most certainly count me in. It runs on the Unreal 4 engine, which has seen mixed results on the Switch, but most recently more positive, so hopefully the port will hold up. With the current climate and the way the world is, they had to put this one on indefinite hold, but I would still hope that we might see it in time for Christmas. Next up is a sequel to the incredible Pillars of Eternity that's, let's be honest, has had a few teething issues on the Switch. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is probably the better game. It's been out for a while on PC, where it takes the players to the Deadfire archipelago in the Far East. This time around, as you would probably gather by the thumbnail, not only can you travel around on your feet, but you can also use ships to get around. All of this takes place from a classic isometric view, with a big emphasis being put on player choice and decision making. I'm not sure if it's the same on the Switch, but in the PC version, choices that you made in the first game carried over to the sequel. So if you have played through the first one, that's something to look forward to. What really remains to be seen, and I think what we're all hoping for, is that they've taken this time to improve and tweak performance and make sure it comes with no bugs. I should imagine there's quite a few of you that won't have heard of this next game, and it's called Eastward. It looks delightful. Look at these visuals. It's a post-apocalyptic RPG set in a world where the human population's shrunk to an all-time low, due mainly to strange creatures that it describes as descending upon the different cities. The premise goes that in a small town, a hard-working digger discovers a mysterious young girl in a secret facility deep underground, and the majority of the gameplay will see you travelling from city to city, which will be crumbling and decaying around you, and your quests will play out in these different areas. This is a single player title, but there are multiple players to control during your adventure, and it promises to have a delightful soundtrack from Joel Corelitz. Plus, let's be honest, Chucklefish, they only put out good games. This is like, man, this is going to be great. You remember I was talking about crazy Japanese characters in the first one? Well, The Good Life is the next game I want to look at. And this one describes itself as a medium-sized open-world game packed with bizarre elements and game mechanics for you to enjoy. And the protagonist here moves from New York City to a small countryside village in beautiful England, known as Rainy Woods, where on full moon nights, all of the inhabitants turn into dogs and cats. You travel across Rainy Woods by riding sheep. Of course you do, why wouldn't you? And all the while you'll be solving a murder. This is amazing. If you've not heard of it, Fairytale is a JRPG based on the manga of the same name, filled with wizards and magic, and based around the Magician's Guild in Magnolia Town. Key features here are the fact that there are more than 10 different characters in the game that the player will be able to take control of. When you create your teams, the bonds between your players will affect how the different synergies play out. It is turn-based combat, but which veers towards strategy. This one comes out on the 25th of June, just a few days after my birthday. And in certain communities, there's a reasonable amount of hype surrounding the launch of this title. Let's hope developer Gust can do a decent job.
ジュビアも一緒についていきます。
面白いことになってきたな。出発!
So that's it for these 10. If you want to see another 10 RPGs covered off for the remainder of the year, then let me know down in the comments. Remember, you can win a free game. You just need to be subscribed and be commenting, and we give away a game every single week. Are there any games here that you didn't know were coming or that have really caught your eye? Let me know as well. And a big thanks to our patrons. You guys are amazing. You don't need to support us, but you do, and we really appreciate it. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!